The specimen stood behind reinforced duraglass, casually peeling something with her bare hands. Dr. Veshkar's throat sac pulsated in what he would later describe as professional alarm. The human female, designation Kat Morrison, appeared completely unbothered by the fact that she was consuming biological matter from her homeworld. Raw, unprocessed, potentially lethal. "Should we intervene?" Junior researcher Plixon whispered, his antenna drooping with concern. "The toxicity readings from that organic material are off the scale." No, let her continue," Veshkar replied, adjusting his observation lenses. "We need to document this. For science." For the past 17 cycles, the Galactic Biological Survey had been studying specimens from Earth, that ridiculous spinning ball of death located in the unfashionable end of the spiral arm. Every single organism they had catalogued from that nightmare planet could kill you in at least 4 different ways. The plants were poisonous. The animals were venomous. Even the microscopic life forms displayed aggressive territorial behavior that made Kravaxian war beasts look like domesticated comfort creatures. And humans? Humans were the absolute worst. They did not just survive on that toxic wasteland. They thrived. They climbed the food chain by being stubborn, adaptable, and frankly too stupid to realize they should have gone extinct several million cycles ago. Kat Morrison took a bite of the thing in her hand. It was bright orange, covered in irregular bumps, and according to the spectral analysis, contained enough capsaicin to theoretically incapacitate a small combat unit. She smiled. "Oh, wow," she said, her voice carrying through the communication system. "This is perfect. You guys actually grew Carolina Reapers? I have been craving these for weeks." Veshkar's throat sac deflated entirely. "She is enjoying it?" "Impossible," Plixon muttered, frantically checking the atmospheric sensors. "The chemical compound in that fruit registers as a Class 7 neurotoxin. It should be triggering every pain receptor in her biological system. She should be experiencing catastrophic sensory overload." Kat took another bite, larger this time. A small amount of liquid dripped down her chin. She wiped it away with her thumb and licked it clean. "So good," she said, tilting her head back. "Man, I thought I would never taste home cooking again after you guys abducted me." "We did not abduct you," Veshkar protested through the intercom, his voice reaching that high-pitched frequency that happened when he was flustered. "We relocated you for study. It was entirely within Galactic Survey protocols." Right. Kat waved her hand dismissively, the half-eaten pepper still clutched in her fingers. "You pulled me out of my apartment at 3 in the morning with zero explanation, but totally not an abduction." "Got it." She examined the remaining portion of her snack with genuine appreciation. "Seriously? Though whoever is running your botanical department deserves a raise. This is a great specimen. Good heat distribution, nice fruity undertones. You even got the phenotype right." Veshkar exchanged glances with Plixon. Neither of them had any idea what she was talking about. "Perhaps," Plixon suggested quietly, "she has been compromised by the toxin, neural damage, delusional behavior." "Her vitals are completely normal," Veshkar gestured at the monitoring display in frustration. "Heart rate steady, respiration normal. Brain activity indicates— Wait, is she actually experiencing pleasure?" The readings did not lie. Kat Morrison's neurological patterns showed activation in reward centers typically associated with positive stimuli. She was not suffering. She was not dying. She was having a genuinely good time eating something that should have melted her internal organs into soup. "I cannot believe this," Veshkar said. 73 cycles I have been studying xenobiology? 73 cycles! And this human is casually consuming weaponized plant matter like it is a recreational activity. Doctor? Plixen's antennae were now pointing straight down. Should we tell her about the other specimens? Veshkar's primary eye widened. Absolutely not. Are you insane? We barely survived processing those samples. But it was too late. Kat had finished her pepper and was now peering through the duraglass into the adjoining containment area, where rows of carefully preserved earth flora sat in sealed biological chambers. Hold on, she said, pressing her face closer to the transparent barrier. Are those ghost peppers? And is that? No way. Is that a castor bean plant? Security Protocol Theta, Veshkar shouted. Lock down all containment fields immediately, klaxons wailed. Magnetic seals engaged with heavy mechanical thuds. 3 layers of reinforced barriers descended between Kat and the botanical storage area. She looked back at the observation deck with confusion. What is wrong? I just wanted to see your collection. Your species has a pathological relationship with danger. Veshkar's voice cracked slightly. You cannot simply look at toxic specimens like they are decorative arrangements. Dude, relax. Kat held up both hands in a calming gesture. I am not going to eat your samples. I just think it is cool that you have such a diverse collection. The castor plant is particularly impressive. Those are actually super beautiful if you can get past the whole ricin thing. The whole what thing? Plixen squeaked. Ricin. You know, one of the most potent toxins found in nature? The beans contain enough to kill. Well, a lot of things. But the plant itself is gorgeous. My grandmother used to grow them in her garden. Veshkar's legs suddenly felt unstable. He sat down heavily in his observation chair. Your grandmother, your genetic progenitor, deliberately cultivated organisms that produce industrial-grade poison for aesthetic purposes. Yeah, she won a prize at the county fair one year. Really pretty leaves. There was a long silence in the observation deck. Somewhere in the facility, a ventilation system hummed. A monitoring station beeped softly, tracking Kat's continued and infuriating stability. I need to sit down, Veshkar said, despite already sitting. You are sitting, Doctor, Plixen pointed out. Then I need to sit down more. Kat had moved on from the botanical storage area and was now examining the furniture in her containment suite. The Galactic Survey had spared no expense in creating a comfortable environment, filled with cushioned surfaces, temperature regulation, and entertainment systems broadcasting carefully curated content from across known space. She ignored all of it and was currently doing something with her body that made Veshkar's spine hurt just from watching. What is she doing? He asked, horrified. I believe, Plixen said slowly, consulting his database. That is called stretching. Humans perform this ritual to maintain flexibility in their musculature. Kat had bent herself nearly in half, her hands flat on the floor, while her legs remained straight. Then she shifted positions, pulling one leg up behind her head while balancing on the other. Her face showed concentration, but no pain. That is not natural, Veshkar whispered. Her skeletal structure should not allow that range of motion. Our models specifically predicted... Our models were wrong, Doctor. Kat released her leg and stood upright, rolling her shoulders. Much better. Hey, quick question. Do you guys have a gym or something? I need to keep up my routine, or I am going to lose my mind in here. A gym? Veshkar repeated blankly. Yeah, you know. Weights, cardio equipment, maybe some space for body weight exercises. I usually run 5 miles a day and do strength training 3 times a week. Plexen was frantically typing into his datapad. According to my research, human exercise involves deliberately stressing their biological systems to the point of cellular damage, which then repairs itself stronger than before. They intentionally break their own bodies. Repeatedly. For fun. We are studying psychopaths, Veshkar said flatly. We have kidnapped a species of absolute psychopaths. I can hear you, Kat called out. And I am not a psychopath. I just like staying fit. Is that so weird? Yes, both researchers shouted in unison. Kat shrugged. Whatever. Can I at least get some different food? No offense, but that nutrient paste you have been feeding me tastes like sadness, and cardboard had a baby. Veshkar's throat sac pulsated again. The nutrient solution is carefully balanced to provide optimal sustenance for carbon-based life forms. It contains everything your biology requires. Cool. It also tastes like butt. We do not have alternative options that would be safe for your consumption, Veshkar protested. Everything from your homeworld is essentially poison. Not to me, it is not. That is the problem. Kat walked over to the communication panel and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Despite being held in an alien facility against her will, light years from home, wearing a simple gray jumpsuit and no shoes, she looked completely comfortable, confident even. Look, she said, her tone shifting to something more serious. I get it. You guys are scientists. You are curious about humans. And yeah, we are probably pretty weird compared to whatever else is out there. But here is the thing. You cannot study me properly if you do not understand something fundamental about my species. And what would that be? Veshkar asked, despite himself leaning forward with interest. We adapt. That is what we do. That is literally our entire evolutionary strategy. You put us in a new environment, and we will figure it out. You give us a problem, and we will solve it. You try to contain us, and we will find a way through, around, over, or under whatever you put in our way. Not because we are trying to be difficult, but because that is just how we are wired. She smiled then, and it was not entirely friendly. So here is my suggestion, Doc. Either work with me, treat me like a person instead of a specimen, and maybe we can have a productive relationship here. Or keep treating me like a lab rat, and I promise you will discover exactly how creative humans can get when we are bored, frustrated, and motivated. Veshkar felt a chill run through his nervous system. It was not the words themselves, though they were concerning enough. It was the absolute certainty in her voice, the complete confidence that she could back up what she was saying. Are you threatening us? Plixon asked nervously. Nope. I am making you a promise. The two researchers looked at each other. They had analyzed dozens of Earth species. They had documented predatory behavior, defensive mechanisms, and survival strategies that defied logic. But this was different. This was not instinct. This was intelligence combined with determination and wrapped in a package that could apparently eat poison for fun. Perhaps, Veshkar said carefully, we should discuss terms. Kat's expression softened. Now you are talking. First things first, I want real food. If you can grow Carolina Reapers, you can grow other stuff. Get me some vegetables, some protein sources, basic seasonings. I will cook my own meals. Cook? Plixon interrupted. You deliberately apply heat to your food? Why? Because it tastes better and kills bacteria. Have you seriously never heard of cooking? Most civilized species consume nutrition in its raw, natural state or properly processed into neutral compounds. Right. Well, humans discovered fire about 1 million years ago and immediately decided to start burning our food. Worked out pretty well for us. Kat ticked off points on her fingers. Second, I want information. If I am stuck here, I want to learn about the galaxy. Access to your databases, cultural information, languages, whatever you have got. That is classified, Veshkar sputtered. So is my DNA, apparently. And you have been running tests on it for weeks. Fair is fair, Doc. Veshkar opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. She had a point. Third, Kat continued, I want communication rights. I have a family back home who probably thinks I am dead. I get that you cannot just send me back, whatever, fine, but I need them to know I am okay. Figure something out. That would violate 17 different protocols, Plixon said weakly. Then maybe your protocols suck. Veshkar rubbed his sensory stalks tiredly. This was not how xenobiological research was supposed to go. Specimens were supposed to be passive, cooperative, and ideally not capable of complex negotiation. But looking at Kat Morrison, standing there with her arms crossed and that slight smile on her face, he realized something that made his primary heart sink. They had not captured a specimen. They had captured an ambassador who just happened to be really, really good at eating poison. I will need to consult with the survey board, he said finally. You do that. In the meantime, can I at least get a book or something? I am bored out of my mind. What kind of book? I do not know. Surprise me. Just nothing too serious. Maybe something funny. Plixon perked up. We have a comprehensive collection of galactic humor. I am sure we can find something suitable for your entertainment. Great. Thanks. As Kat settled onto one of the cushioned surfaces and closed her eyes, apparently deciding to take a nap, Veshkar slumped in his chair and stared at the monitoring displays. Every reading was normal. Heart rate steady. Brain activity consistent with relaxation. Body temperature optimal. She was, by every measurable standard, completely fine. A human was sitting in a containment facility designed to study the most dangerous organisms in known space, having just eaten something that qualified as a chemical weapon in 47 different jurisdictions. And she was fine. We are going to die, Veshkar said quietly. What? Plixon looked startled. If we keep her here against her will, if we do not meet her requirements, if we treat her like a prisoner instead of a person, we are going to die. Maybe not immediately, maybe not obviously, but eventually, somehow, she will find a way. Doctor, you are being paranoid. Am I? Veshkar gestured at the containment suite. That is an apex predator from a Class 12 Deathworld. She casually consumes neurotoxins. Her species deliberately damages their own bodies for recreation. They cook their food with fire. They kept evolving intelligence until they figured out how to leave their own planet. And presumably would have found us eventually, even if we had not found them first. He turned to face his junior researcher directly. Humans do not just adapt to their environment, Plixon. They adapt their environment to themselves. And right now, we are her environment. In the containment suite, Kat cracked one eye open and smiled slightly. She had heard every word. 3 cycles later, Veshkar stood in front of the survey board and wondered if this was how his career ended. The council chamber was massive, filled with representatives from 40 different species, all of whom were currently staring at him like he had just announced plans to weaponize a supernova. Let me understand this correctly, Council Director Thrain said, her vocal membranes vibrating with barely contained disbelief. You want to give the human specimen unrestricted access to our cultural database, communication privileges with her homeworld, and a fully equipped nutrition preparation facility. That is correct, Director. Have you lost your neural functions? Possibly, Veshkar admitted, but I believe it is our best option for maintaining facility security and advancing our research objectives. A Morphidian delegate raised 3 of his appendages. This seems like capitulation to a potentially hostile entity. What happened to standard containment protocols? Standard protocols assume the subject lacks agency or the capacity for complex reasoning, Veshkar explained, pulling up holographic displays of Kat's test results. This human demonstrates advanced problem-solving abilities, strategic thinking, and what I can only describe as tactical patience. She is not simply enduring captivity. She is analyzing it. So, another council member interjected, we have studied intelligent species before. Not like this. Veshkar expanded the neural scan readings. Watch what happens when we introduced a basic logic puzzle into her environment. She solved it in 4 minutes. Then she reverse-engineered the locking mechanism on her storage compartment. Then she figured out the frequency pattern of our surveillance rotation and started exercising specifically during sensor calibration windows. The chamber fell silent. She has been mapping our security systems, Plixon added helpfully. For fun. She told me it helps pass the time. Director Thrane's chromatic scales shifted to a disturbed purple. Are you saying this creature is planning an escape? No, Veshkar said firmly. That is precisely my point. She is not planning an escape. If she wanted to escape, I believe she already would have. She is testing boundaries, establishing parameters, and negotiating from a position of perceived weakness while actually holding all the leverage. Explain. Veshkar took a deep breath, his throat sac expanding fully. Humans evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill them every single day. Predators, diseases, environmental hazards, even the food supply was unpredictable and dangerous. They survived by becoming the most adaptable, most persistent, most stubborn species in their entire biosphere. When faced with an obstacle, they do not give up. They find another way. He gestured at the holographic display showing Kat in her containment suite. She was currently doing something called push-ups, raising and lowering her body using only her arms while maintaining a perfectly straight posture. The monitoring systems counted 100 repetitions before she switched to a different exercise. If we continue treating her as a hostile specimen, she will eventually perceive us as the obstacle. And humans have a very particular approach to obstacles. Which is? Thrane asked. They go through them. A nervous murmur rippled through the council chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their observation pods. Furthermore, Veshkar continued, warming to his argument, cooperation benefits us scientifically. In the past 3 cycles of modified interaction protocols, I have learned more about human psychology, cultural development, and biological capabilities than the previous 20 cycles combined. She answers questions. She explains concepts. She even corrected several errors in our Earth database. What kind of errors? A delegate asked suspiciously. Plixon consulted his datapad. Apparently, we had classified chocolate as a mild toxin. It is actually a food item. Also, we thought dogs were a parasitic symbiote, controlling human behavior through chemical manipulation. They are just companions. Humans keep them by choice. Why would anyone voluntarily cohabitate with another species? She says they are cute and provide emotional support. The council chamber erupted in confused chatter. The concept of interspecies emotional bonds without parasitic manipulation was apparently too bizarre for immediate comprehension. Director Thrane held up a silencing appendage. Even if we accept your assessment, Dr. Veshkar, there remains the issue of communication with Earth. We cannot simply allow unrestricted contact with an unvetted planet. They could be militaristic, expansionist, or worse. With respect, Director, they already know something happened to her. Veshkar pulled up intercepted Earth communications. Her disappearance triggered investigation protocols, law enforcement agencies, media coverage, even something called Internet conspiracy theories. The longer we maintain radio silence, the more attention we attract to this sector. You are suggesting we make first contact with an entire planetary civilization because of one specimen? I am suggesting we acknowledge the inevitable. Humans were already developing spacefaring technology. They would have found us within a few generations regardless. This simply accelerates the timeline under controlled conditions. Thrain's scales shifted through several colors, indicating deep consideration. This is highly irregular. So are humans, Director. Very well. Thrain's decision seemed to age her several cycles. Limited communication privileges, monitored transmissions only, and her nutrition preparation facility will be equipped with comprehensive safety systems. If she attempts to weaponize her food— She will not, Veshkar interrupted, then realized he had just contradicted the council director. I mean, respectfully, that is not consistent with observed behavior patterns. She has been entirely cooperative when treated with basic dignity. Then let us hope your assessment is correct, Doctor. Because if you are wrong, you will be personally responsible for whatever consequences follow. Veshkar's throat sac deflated slightly. Understood, Director. 2 cycles later, Kat stood in what the aliens called a nutrition preparation facility, and what she called the weirdest kitchen she had ever seen. The equipment was bizarre. Nothing had recognizable knobs or buttons. Temperature controls operated on a color spectrum she was still figuring out. The cutting implements looked like they belonged in a surgical theater, which, given alien attitudes toward food preparation, probably made sense. But they had delivered actual ingredients, real vegetables, protein sources that resembled chicken if she squinted, even some spices she recognized. She was going to cook an actual meal. Veshkar watched nervously from the observation deck as she examined a root vegetable similar to a potato. You are certain this will not create toxic fumes? Doc, I am making stir-fry, not building a bomb. Your species considers those different activities? Kat laughed, the sound echoing through the facility's communication system. She had noticed that her laughter made several research staff members uncomfortable, like they could not quite process the concept of vocalized joy. Cultural differences were fascinating when you were not too busy being terrified of them. She fired up the heating element, watching as it shifted from blue to orange. Oil went into the pan, a satisfying sizzle filling the air. Vegetables followed, the smell of cooking food triggering something primal and comforting in her brain. The chemical compounds you are creating are registering as potentially hazardous, Plixon warned. Yeah, that is called the Maillard reaction. It is what makes cooked food taste good. You guys are seriously missing out. She added the protein, some sauce she had improvised from available ingredients, and kept everything moving in the pan with practiced efficiency. Cooking had always been meditation for her, a way to quiet her mind and focus on something immediate and tangible. Within minutes, she had a steaming plate of food that looked almost normal. Almost like home. Kat took a bite and nearly cried. It was not perfect. The vegetables were slightly off, the protein had a weird texture, and her improvised sauce tasted like soy sauce's weird cousin. But it was real food. Food she had made with her own hands. Food that was not gray nutrient paste. Oh my God, she said quietly. I did not realize how much I missed this. The human is experiencing significant emotional response, Plixon observed. Elevated heart rate, increased respiration, visual moisture, accumulation. She is crying, Veshkar said softly. Leave her alone. They watched in silence as Kat finished her meal, carefully cleaning her plate and the cooking implements with a thoroughness that suggested ritual significance. When she finally looked up at the observation deck, her eyes were still slightly wet, but she was smiling. Thank you, she said simply. Veshkar felt something shift in his perception. This was not a specimen. This was not a research subject. This was a person, far from home, trying to maintain her sense of self in impossible circumstances. "You are welcome, Kat Morrison." The next cycle brought the communication terminal. Kat sat in front of the device, hands trembling slightly as she composed her message. Veshkar had explained the limitations. No real-time communication due to distance and translation requirements. No specific location data that could compromise the facility. No technical information about alien capabilities. But she could tell her family she was alive. She typed slowly, choosing each word carefully. "Mom, Dad, Jamie, I know you have been worried sick. I am okay. I cannot explain everything yet, but I am safe and being treated well. This is going to sound insane, but I am not on Earth anymore. I met some new people who are very different but mostly friendly. I miss you all so much. I will come home when I can. Love always, Kat." She stared at the message for a long moment, then hit send before she could overthink it. "How long until they receive it?" she asked. "Approximately 6 of your days," Veshkar replied. "The translation algorithms need time to convert your language into something your communication networks can receive without triggering security alerts. We are embedding it as a standard digital message that will appear to originate from her last known location." "You guys have really thought this through." "We have protocols for first contact scenarios. They simply have never been applied to a single individual before." Kat leaned back in her chair, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. "So, what happens now?" "Now," Veshkar's throat sac pulsated with what she had learned to recognize as his version of a nervous laugh. "Now we figure out what to do with you. The survey board is divided. Some want to continue standard observation protocols. Others think you should be returned to Earth immediately. A few radicals are suggesting we should use you as a basis for formal diplomatic relations. What do you think?" The question seemed to surprise him. "My opinion is not particularly relevant. I am a research scientist, not a policymaker." "Humor me." Veshkar was quiet for a moment, his sensory stalks twitching as he considered. "I think humans are going to change everything. Your species exhibits characteristics we have never encountered in combination. Intelligence paired with physical resilience. Creativity combined with aggression. Empathy alongside predatory instincts. You are walking contradictions that somehow function." "Is that a compliment?" "I genuinely cannot tell." Kat smiled. "For what it is worth, you guys are not so bad either. Weird, sure. Your food situation is depressing, and your safety protocols are paranoid as hell. But you are trying. That counts for something. We abducted you from your home planet. Yeah, that was definitely not cool. But you are also giving me cooking equipment and letting me talk to my family. So, you know, mixed bag." Plixon's voice crackled through the intercom. "Doctor, we are receiving an urgent transmission from the outer monitoring stations. There is an unidentified vessel entering our sector." Veshkar's scales shifted to an alarmed yellow. Classification? Unknown design. Not matching any registered configurations in our database. It is broadcasting a repeating message in multiple frequencies. "What does it say?" There was a pause. "It says, 'Where is our daughter?'" Kat stood up so fast her chair fell over. "Wait, what?" The observation deck erupted in chaos. Alarms sounded. Security protocols engaged. Veshkar was shouting orders while simultaneously trying to access the communication logs. "This is impossible," he exclaimed. "Earth does not have interstellar capability. Their most advanced vessels barely achieved lunar orbit." "Apparently, someone forgot to tell them that," Plixon said, pulling up visual scans of the approaching ship. It was not sleek or elegant, like galactic survey vessels. It looked like someone had taken industrial mining equipment, strapped on massive engines, and said good enough. Welding scars covered the hull. The propulsion system violated at least a dozen physics principles that Veshikar could identify from here. And it was broadcasting Kat's name on every frequency simultaneously. "How did they even find us?" Veshikar demanded. Kat had her face pressed against the observation window, staring at the display with wide eyes. "Oh no. Oh no, no, no. You know something about this?" "My family. They are not exactly normal. My dad is a mechanical engineer. My mom is a physicist. My brother is a computer programmer with a really concerning interest in hacking. So if they thought I was in danger, they would absolutely build a spaceship in their garage and come get me. That is not how spaceflight works. Doc, I ate poison peppers for breakfast, and you have been having a meltdown about it for a week. Can we maybe accept that humans do not really care about how things are supposed to work?" The vessel was getting closer. Veshikar could now make out details. Solar panels that looked like they came from residential rooftops. A communication array that was probably built from satellite equipment. The whole thing held together with what appeared to be determination and possibly duct tape. "They are hailing us," Plixon said weakly. "Put them through." The voice that came through was older, male, and absolutely furious. "This is Captain James Morrison of the vessel Desperation. You have my daughter. Return her immediately, or we will assume hostile intent and respond accordingly." "Respond with what?" Veshikar asked despite himself. "Your ship does not have weapons." "Who said anything about weapons? We will ram you. This thing cost us $200,000 and a second mortgage. We have got nothing left to lose." Kat covered her face with her hands. "Dad, please stop threatening the aliens." "Katie? Baby, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I am fine, Dad. Seriously. It is complicated, but I am not in danger." "Then why have you been gone for 6 weeks with zero contact?" "Because interstellar communication is apparently really hard, and these guys do not have unlimited texting plans." A new voice joined the channel, female and equally concerned. "Sweetheart, we have been losing our minds. Your brother tracked some unusual energy signatures to this sector. We did not know what else to do." "Mom, you built a spaceship." "Well, yes. Your father helped with the engines. Jamie handled navigation. We had to do something." Veshikar looked at Plixon. Plixon looked at Veshikar. Neither of them had any idea how to handle this situation. First contact protocols did not cover scenarios where the contacted species showed up uninvited in homemade vessels. "This is unprecedented," Veshikar muttered. "Yeah, humans are like that," Kat said. She was smiling now, despite everything. "Can they dock? I would really like to see them." "Absolutely not. We have no idea if their vessel is even structurally sound. It could contaminate our facility, compromise our systems, or you could let a daughter see her family after you kidnapped her," Kat interrupted, her voice taking on that edge he had learned to recognize. The edge that meant she was done being patient. Director Thrain's voice crackled through the emergency channel. "Dr. Veshikar, what is your situation?" "Complicated, Director. We have unauthorized visitors." "I am monitoring the situation. Allow them to dock. Controlled environment, full security detail, but allow it." "Director, the risks are less than what will happen if we refuse. Humans just crossed interstellar space in a vessel that should not exist to retrieve one of their own. That tells us everything we need to know about their priorities. And their capabilities." Veshikar's throat sac deflated completely. "Understood, Director." The docking procedure took 2 cycles and required emergency structural reinforcements because the Morrison family ship did not match any standard coupling protocols. But eventually, the airlock sealed and the door opened. Kat's family poured through like a force of nature. Her father was tall, gray-haired, wearing a jacket that said NASA on it, despite apparently never working for any official space program. Her mother was smaller, carrying multiple scanning devices and a first aid kit. Her brother looked barely 20, clutching a laptop like it was a weapon. They saw Kat and rushed forward, pulling her into a group embrace that made several security personnel reach for their containment weapons. "Stand down," Veshkar ordered quietly. "Let them have this." Kat was crying again, proper tears this time, holding on to her family like they might disappear. They were all talking at once, a chaotic symphony of relief and questions and reassurances. "How did you even get here?" Kat finally asked. Jamie grinned. "Turns out your disappearance left a really specific energy signature. I tracked it. Dad built a reactor based on some theoretical physics papers Mom found, and we sort of just pointed ourselves in your direction and hoped for the best." "You could have died." "Yeah, well, you are our sister. Did you think we would just leave you?" Veshkar watched the reunion from a safe distance, feeling something he could not quite name. These humans had risked everything, violated every rule of physics and common sense, built an impossible vessel from spare parts, and crossed the void of space. For family. Director Thrain appeared on his communication display. "Doctor, I believe we need to reconsider our approach to Earth." "I agree, Director. Any species capable of this level of determination and innovation cannot be contained or ignored. We need formal relations, immediately." "What about Kat Morrison?" "She goes home, with our apologies, our gratitude for her cooperation, and an invitation to return as an official liaison when she is ready." Kat looked over at that moment, still surrounded by her family, and caught Veshikar's eye. She mouthed the words, "Thank you." He nodded slowly. Humans were terrifying, irrational, and absolutely impossible to predict. They were also loyal, creative, and refused to accept limitations. The galaxy was about to get very, very interesting. 3 months later, Kat stood in front of the United Nations, explaining aliens to a room full of stunned diplomats. She had taken the scenic route home, letting the Galactic Survey give her family a proper tour of their facilities, establishing preliminary communication protocols, and eating as many Carolina Reapers as she could before returning to Earth's boring, safe, normal food. "So let me get this straight," the Secretary General said carefully. "They abducted you to study humans because they think we are insane?" "Basically, yes. And your family built a spaceship to rescue you." "Also, yes? Which convinced them we are even more insane." "But in a good way," Kat added cheerfully. "They want to establish diplomatic relations, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, the whole deal. Apparently, we are fascinating. Because we eat poison and build impossible spaceships. And because we do not give up. Ever. They have never encountered a species quite like us." The Secretary General leaned back in his chair, processing the absurdity of the situation. "Ms. Morrison, in your professional opinion, should Earth accept this invitation?" Kat thought about Veshkar, nervously monitoring her pepper consumption, about Plixon, genuinely curious despite his fear, about the survey board, slowly realizing that protocols meant nothing when facing human determination. "Yes," she said firmly. "We should. They are weird and paranoid, and they think cooking food is dangerous. But they are trying. And honestly, I think we can learn a lot from each other. Even though they kidnapped you? Even though. Besides, I got a killer story out of it. And I proved that humans can literally eat anything." The assembly hall erupted in nervous laughter. Outside, parked in a specially designated zone, the Morrison family spaceship sat like a monument to human stubbornness. Engineers from a dozen countries were analyzing it, trying to figure out how it worked. None of them could explain it, but that was fine. Humans did not need explanations. They just needed a reason to try. And family, apparently, was reason enough to cross the stars.